straight away, and unfortunately for the European contingent, the surfers from the Southern Hemisphere and the USA stepped things up a notch. Australia's Jay Thompson here in black with powerful turns, and also Bernardo Miranda from Brazil in white got through their heat and went through to the round of 12. Although the conditions were slightly deteriorating, Thompson's Australian mate Jared Howes also managed to get some nice turns in, and together with U.S. surfer Ben Bourgeois, who charged through this left-hander, both made it through the heat. The round of 24 was the end of the road for Charles Martin, who lost out against Jordy Smith here in yellow, whose powerful surfing went down well with the ASP judges. Nathan Hedge also continued his journey, but the conditions were definitely getting worse. Here you see David Weir from South Africa in white and Australia's Kurt Flintoff in yellow, battling to get the best waves and maximum points. And finally, former WCT surfer Shea Lopez here in yellow also managed to get some nice turns in and qualify for the round of 12.
We go to the morning surf check. We have a number of different event venues. The main one being Thurso East, which is the right-hand point break we can see just out here. From here we just head back to Brim's Nest, which is where the event is being held.
Now, I think there's surfable waves coming through.
But they won't be for much longer. Like, if we're going to do it, we need to do it.
Well, yeah, exactly. You're going to have to just start, you've got 4 heats, you're looking at 2 hours.
In the first heat of the round of 12, South African junior world champion Jordy Smith, who'd been surfing well throughout the contest, pulled out of this barrel, finishing his highest scoring wave with a nice cutback. Last year's finalist Bernardo Pygmew Miranda also got barreled, but only managed one high scoring wave, and in the end was not only beaten by Jordy Smith, but also by U.S. surfer Ben Bourgeois. Bourgeois, here in the white rash vest, pulled into this nice little barrel and got a 6.67 point wave score and won the heat with that ride. In the next heat, Australian surfers Kurt Flintoff here in the white rash vest and routinier and former WCT surfer Nathan Hedge dominated the proceedings. Flintoff attacked the right-hander in brims with some nice and aggressive cutbacks and received a 6.93 point wave score for this ride. Hedge, who'd been coming all the way from round 1, showed his experience and also showed his stylish top-to-bottom turns, earning him a spot in the quarterfinals.
It has been tricky because I'm not used to booties and just the cold. I guess we're getting used to it now though, so it doesn't take too long, but it's definitely a challenge. It's not as easy as just getting your board shots and running out for a surf.
In the third heat, American surfer Asher Nolan, here in the white rash vest, surfed one of the most impressive barrels of the day, good for a 9.5, and easily qualified for the quarters. And his compatriot Shea Lopez didn't want to sit back, also scoring a decent 7.67 with this mini barrel. But the most interesting heat was the battle between Brazilian Oderley Coutinho and the 2 Australians Jared Howes and Jay Thompson. The heat was resurfed at the very first call of action on the final day because Coutinho had missed the original heat the evening before and was lucky that the ASP decided to repeat it. Here we see Jared Howes in the Brims pit enjoying his first barrel of the day on his way to qualifying for the quarterfinals. And his mate Jay Thompson didn't sit back either and pulled into this picture-perfect barrel, scoring the only 10-point wave of the whole contest. The Aussie was clearly a happy man.
I was so stoked because just before me and Jared paddled out, we were at the car getting changed, and he goes, "I couldn't sleep," and I was like, "I couldn't sleep either." I had to pop a sleeping tablet to fall asleep. I was just real anxious to see what was going to happen this morning, and I was prepared to surf, and yeah, that 10 was just a bit of a bonus.
being on the CT last year has helped me. It's helped my ability. I've definitely improved as a surfer, and I think mentally, you know, after being on the CT, competing in all those waves with all those guys, it definitely gives you a bit of an edge.
You just got to be really confident, and you know, you got to surf your plan, and just go out there and know what you want to do, and just do it.
For me, it doesn't really start getting serious until about an hour before the event, where I'd like to be down there watching the waves, just so you get a feel for what's happening in the water, what the best waves are, you know, whether it's the first wave of the set, second, third, you know, who's getting through and what they're getting through for. So then you kind of just build a little bit of a game plan.
It was time for the quarterfinals, and for the first time at the second edition of the O'Neill Highland Open, it was man-on-man heats. This was the big one, junior world champion and world qualifying series leader Jordy Smith against last year's World Championship Tour surfer Jared Howes. Klaus, as he's called by his Aussie mates, opened his points account with this nice cutback, followed by a roundhouse cutback and a small aerial. Good for a 6.0 on the judges' scorecard. Smith, the last South African in the competition, managed to pull into this relatively small barrel, finishing the wave with a roundhouse cutback and another cutback turn to take the lead with 6.67. But it wasn't enough to beat the more experienced Jared Howes, who got a barrel himself and won the heat with a relatively low combination score of 11.27.
We waited 15 minutes before the first wave broke, and I spoke to a friend of mine, Jake Patterson, earlier today, and he just said surf a smart heat and you'll beat him, and I guess that's what I did.
And here we see Ben Bourgeois in white out of North Carolina. Two nice snaps off the top, finishes off with a floater re-entry, good for 9.17 points on the judges' scorecard. 10-point man Jay Thompson here in red couldn't quite keep up his form, and although he got barreled again on this wave, good for 8.67, it just wouldn't be enough. His American rival Bourgeois also got barreled and sealed his victory with this wave, getting a combination score of 17.5 points from the judges to move through to the semifinals. It was hog time again in quarterfinal number 3, and right from the start, Nathan Hedge showed his intent on qualifying for the semis. Surfing backside, he linked some huge fins out re-entries on the most critical sections and scored 6.83 points from the judges. Although his American opponent, Shea Lopez, didn't have a bad day either, it was Nathan Hedge who moved on to the semifinals of the O'Neill Highland Open. Here we see Hedge's second highest scoring wave of the heat, good for an 8.33 wave score. In the last quarterfinal, Kurt Flintoff here in red was up against yesterday's high scorer, Asher Nolan. The American didn't surf as well as he did in previous rounds and could only manage a 5.5 wave score for his best wave here. Overall, he couldn't do anything against Flintoff's two best waves, especially this barrel. And so the third Australian surfer qualified with an impressive top-scoring wave combo of 14.84 points for the O'Neill Highland Open semifinals. The swell in the Brims Bowl had picked up again, and when the surfers paddle out for the first semifinal, it was pumping. Kirk Flintoff here with some nice cutback turns and a beautiful floater to end the wave set the early standard in this heat. But his Australian friend Nathan Hedge was ready